Alright, today is a good day. Working on the Buick a little bit, and I ordered some stuff. Of course, I'd like to show you. This is something I really wanted to install on this car, and it is Ride Tech air ride suspension. So with this kit, I'll be able to adjust the ride height of my car at the touch of a button. You got 3 presets here and manual control of each airbag and much more. So this will be a quick unboxing, and let's get started here. Came in that box, a lot of packing, and there's the tank. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ports on it. Looks like quarter, quarter, eighth, quarter, quarter. Up here, hopefully plenty of tubing. It's 1/4 inch OD. Wiring harnesses, power wires. This is a controller here. 2 fuses. I believe what the idea is here is that we'll cut them in the middle or wherever you want, depending on the length, and fix terminals to them. Here we've got push connect fittings, 1/4 inch as well. 3 plugs. You can see that this one does not have tape on it, Teflon tape. I went ahead and taped all this up. These guys here came with this tape already on it. I work in HVAC for a living, and I will tell you that this stuff is not really that great, and I'd go ahead and put you 2 to 3 wraps of Teflon tape over top of these. So I'll do that one in the plug, of course. We've got 5 5 pressure sensors, the distribution manifold with a delivery side, gauge, and supply and exhaust. It's pretty nice. Looks like it's CNC machined out of what feels to be billet aluminum. More wiring. I'll link the kit that I bought here too as well for you. Some rubber grommets, 2 pumps. That's what they recommended for my car. It's a big old boat. It's heavy. I got 2 bags of some miscellaneous supplies, some mounting hardware, fuses, extra fittings and whatnot. These are some extra bags of that stuff over there came in. The manual, user manual, and looks like the connection to the touchscreen, or LCD I guess this is, the controller. Now, I do not have the airbags yet, but when I get them, I will show them to you. They're being delivered separately. When I get them, I'll show them to you and show you how I get them installed. So in the meantime, I'm going to start planning out how I want to, orchestrate this, where I'm going to put all this junk. Most of it's going to go in the trunk, obviously. Big old trunk, behind the subwoofer, so you can't even see it. Eventually I want to make a custom box for the back as well, so it'll all be contained. You won't be able to see it. So I'm going to start putting some of this together, and I'll keep you updated. Just to give you an idea of how I've wrapped these, take your Teflon tape, get started. Then I do 1, 2, 3. And just rotate it in. Well, I got a sensor put in here, and it appears that they are 24mm metric. And I'm going to use the socket. It's a deep well, a standard wouldn't fit, but if you didn't have that, you could use an adjustable wrench. Just be careful, when I'm tightening this down, I don't want to run the tool into the nice powder coating on the aluminum. Alright, so I got these mounted. I took just a little extra time to get the locking tabs all pointed basically at 12 o'clock Some are a little off. It's not a big deal. This isn't a show car and no one's going to see this piece anyway, but just because I have OCD. With 1/8 inch NPT, you don't need to tighten it too much, in my opinion. They're very fine threads. They seal fairly quickly. You're talking 5 to 10 foot-pounds of torque. At this point, I'm going to take the 1/4 inch 90s here, get them installed. Again, not going to over tighten. Be careful that the tool doesn't get jammed against the powder coating and scratch it all to hell. That completes the installation of the fittings and pressure sensors. Looks pretty good. Let's move on. Okay, so I think I've came up with a pretty good plan on how to install the tank and compressors and all that stuff for the air ride. I'm going to put it in back here where you can see all this messy wiring, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I measured the distances of that little compartment there. It's about 45 by 16. And the way I'm going to power the whole system is I'm actually going to do it with the amp or the subwoofer wire and put it on a distribution block and use that. I'll have to be careful not to have the subwoofers, you know, pounding away when I'm moving the car around or using the air ride suspension. But other than that, I think it'll work, and everything will be fused, so I'll carry extra fuses in case I blow them. It's just going to make the wiring so much easier. So over here, I went to a hardware store and bought a piece of plywood. I think it's 3/4 inch, and cut it to that length, so it's 16 by 45. And I think this is about the layout that I want. And what I'm going to do is put feet on here, glue feet onto this, maybe one in the edge, center, and one on that side, so I have 3 little feet that'll raise it up, and then I'll figure out a way to mount it. So I think all this stuff is just going to be fit back there quite nicely like this. So you got the amp, the control, the brains of it, and the solenoids, and the whole setup. So I'm going to work on planning this out as best as I can, and then I'll start marking, drilling. I'm going to stain this black, basically. I'm going to stain that piece of wood black, coat it, and get ready to put it in the car. So I got the rear bags installed. It's about how much drop I'm going to get. It's going to be close to scraping the pipes on the ground because they hang lower than the frame. You can see them there. Actually, it looks pretty good. I think we're clear. I'll put up a couple pictures of the installation on that. It's just basic mechanics, so I didn't do a video on it. Front, it's part. Ride Tech failed to let me know that I need a lower control arm to install that bag. So, you know, I just bought the bags. I thought they were a direct mount, and they're not. So I've got to order more parts, so I'm just going to go ahead and get the full Ride Tech everything. Upper, lower, sway bar, and a spindle. Alright, been working in the trunk here. It's kind of what it looks like right now, a bit messy. Got the rear bags are hooked up. I bought these grommets, they're 1/4 inch. You drill a 3/8 hole and stick them in there, and then now that's nice and insulated. Hopefully it won't get cut. And that's the passenger side. Over here, I took a piece of plywood, cut it out the length, stained it, put a couple coats of polyurethane on it, and got some lag bolts, they're 1/4 20s. Unfortunately, the only mess up I had was these ended up in the frame somewhere, or not the frame, a reinforcement. So I got 2 extra holes. I might plug them, might just leave them. No one's going to see this stuff anyway. And then underneath, what I did here is I bought these at the hardware store. They're just little rubber feet, and I glued them in place with some epoxy. That way I didn't have to mess with them trying to get them installed. They're permanent. That one's obviously off, so I'm going to go ahead and move it up with that one as well. And at this point, it's time to start installing the components and soldering up some wiring and doing some custom wiring. a quick update that I was not planning on doing, but I'll do it now because I found something. Getting this stuff mounted up, and I started doing the wiring, and look what I found. Shame on RideTech. That was underneath the heat shield. I'm sorry, shrink tube. I don't know what they used to heat it up, but they melted all the wiring. I cut it off very carefully with that X-Acto knife, number 11. Kind of disappointed to see that. I mean, you can see the wire was melted and everything else. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and cut off all the shrink tube on everything, on all the wiring harnesses that they provided, and see what's going on. Kind of disappointed in that. Well, I've got my board completed. Here's a little overview of what it looks like, and I'll explain some of the details here in a second. So one nice thing is that now I've got my amp hooked up to this board. It used to be hooked to the subwoofer. It was just screwed on the top of the box, and this is going to be much cleaner. And then also the subwoofer is actually going to sit, the box is going to sit out in front of this, and all I have to do to access this board, if I need to maintain it in any way, or something breaks, is just pull 2 wires off the subwoofer box, lift it out, and then I'll have access to everything in here. There's plenty of room in the trunk. So that was my idea behind doing that. First, let's start with this. This is a little power distribution block that I got from Walmart. It actually came with 2 30-amp fuses, and the pumps require that you have 2 30-amp fuses. So this is one, or the compressors. This is one of the compressors, and then this is another one. Then this is the 15-amp fuse that they want you to have for the I don't know what you call it, ECU, I guess, for this controller. So I had to modify this a little bit, and all I did is, if you take a look there, originally it didn't have these 2 set screws on the sides. It just had the one big one here. So I just put it in the drill press, drilled these out, tapped them, and put some set screws in there. And then now what I can do is, I got the power wire coming in here. This goes to the subwoofer, and then this will be the one coming from the battery, from the front of the car. And everything's double and triple fused, so if I have any problems, I'll figure it out later. I think it's going to work just fine though. From there, power wires come over, and just cut and soldered, some new wiring, attached these harnesses. I kept the harnesses stock. I didn't, cut them out and hardwire them. That way, if I have to work on or change either one of these pumps, I'll just buy a new one from RideTech, unplug it, plug a new one in, good to go, and then use my little custom harness there. This goes to the ignition switch. I have to run that through the interior to the front of the car. These are 2 fuses that were included with the kit. These are grounds that will end up being grounded to the chassis somewhere. They're real long right now. Just look at how the solenoids turned out. So yeah, I think it turned out pretty nice. Next step is to get it mounted in the trunk. Also, keep in mind, down here, I almost missed this. There's actually a 1/4-inch NPT plug right back here. They have a port down at the bottom. I didn't even realize it until later on, but definitely want to get that plugged up or use it for something. Otherwise, you'll have some serious leakage. All right, well, I'm going to get this put in the car. There it is, completed. I think it turned out pretty good. It was a little rough getting that board up in there and getting it mounted, but I ended up doing it by myself, so it wasn't that bad. One thing I'll mention, 2 things that I changed since I showed you this board. Let's get in here. Okay, right here, You can see that that's a bleeder. I put that in. You could use a valve or something like that. That's kind of a fancy stainless steel bleeder. I put that in so that if I need to work on this thing, I can drain the tank using that. I don't know if there's a way to do it through the controller. I haven't looked yet, but I mean, let's say the car was powered down, then I could definitely do it using that bleeder up there. One other thing I changed, yeah, you can see it there. The compressors, I had plastic 90-degree push connects right off the top of the compressor. They actually, both of them at the same time, blew out the first time I pumped this thing up. I think it was a combination of heat and vibration. So I went to the hardware store and got some 90s, which it didn't come with. The kit didn't come with those. It did come with the brass push connect and the brass nipple there. But I added the 90s, and I'm going to see how that works. It does get pretty warm, but you know, time will tell. I'm going to carry extra fittings and tubing with me at all times. Alright, so now I'm going to get the subwoofer put back in, and then I'll give you a demonstration on how everything works. Installation is complete. The airbags are installed. They seem to be working good. It's currently sitting at its lowest position, which is preset 1 on the controller. The front can go lower. The back is all the way down. The front can go lower, but problem is my exhaust pipes go below the frame and they actually hit the ground if I go much lower than that. They're about an inch away from hitting the ground right now. So the front airbags have a little bit of pressure in them. I have 2-inch drop spindles installed. I might switch it to stock, and that might fix everything. And the car needs a front end alignment real bad. Again, since I changed the control arms and everything else, it kind of wanders across the road when you're driving. Take a look at the back. Sitting pretty low. As low as I want to go. And there you can see the wheels tucked up in the wheel well in the back. Front's tucked a little bit, not quite as much as that. If you look carefully, you can see the header down there. Like I said, it's about an inch away from the ground. That's where I set it. Take a look at the front, and then I will show you how it raises up and down. All right. Now we're inside the car, and there's the ride tech controller, my radio of course, and the Holley EFI. That's about all that's in here. Got some spare tubing sitting there that'll end up in a tool chest in the trunk, and everything else is stock, even the old stock radio, which isn't hooked up obviously. Anyway, here's the ride tech controller. Pretty self-explanatory. If you hit this tank button, it just tells you the pressure that's in the tank. Press it again. Back to this screen. This is the front left bag, front right, rear left, rear right. And you have independent control of these if you want. It was at preset 1. 2 is normal driving. So you kind of just hold it for a second, and it puts the car at the pressures I preset. I don't have the level sensors on this. And then there's a menu button here. You can go through the various menus, up, down, select whatever. If you select it, it changes the status of it. Hit menu to get out there. There's preset number 3. This is all the way up. And that's all the way down. That's basically it. Or you can, if you wanted, I guess you could put the car off to the side. Put it sideways. I found out that basically every time I change the ride height, will go up anyway as the tank pressure drops, and it usually has to fill it back up to, I think it goes to 150. And that's about it. So if you guys have any questions about it, feel free to comment. If you want to see more different angles or something like that, just let me know. I can do more videos on it, but this is all I had planned. So thanks for watching, and get yourself some air ride. It's a good time. Alright, take it easy.